A lot of the time, I don't keep up on YouTube drama. But to be honest, Def Noodles is a case I've been following since nearly the beginning. For those who have no idea who Def Noodles is, he's a news commentary channel described by himself as a mix between The Soup and The Colbert Report, a satirical take on internet news and commentary hosted by a cat in a Minecraft house. This channel and the person behind it have been the subject of a ton of controversy, from slandering numerous creators constantly, to being a massive snowflake when anything is said about him, to being almost unable to take accountability for himself. For today's video, I wanted to go through some of the things this guy has done just over the past couple of months. We're gonna start out with one of Def Noodles' favorite activities. You may have heard of Def Noodles being referred to as defamation noodles, and that's clearly for a reason. There are numerous cases of Def Noodles slandering other YouTubers for essentially no reason, and this situation starts out with a passive-aggressive tweet. A YouTuber by the name of Grady Hooper made a video on Dennis, which was then tweeted out by the character, with the caption, "Absolute genius makes video telling the world he's madly in love with me." YouTuber AugieRFC responds, they go back and forth for a little while, and it leads to Augie telling him, "Hey, if you really want to have a discussion about this, I'll fire up a live stream, let's go." Dennis says, "Why would I want to go on your show? Very clever to attack someone only to bait them to bring your audience to your channels. Props for that. Still a scummy tactic." There's also this tweet which, according to AugieRFC, never happened, and it all climaxes in a thread. Conclusion. There's a group of YouTubers who attempt to present themselves as the moral center of the commentary community. These same folks dogpile on other YouTubers whenever they get the chance. Don't get it twisted, they would never face off one-on-one. They need the group. Fun fact, the stream Augie invited him onto was literally just him. These YouTubers bait people to respond, and when they get a response, they say the person is too sensitive for responding. It's a cheap tactic to try and invalidate someone's freedom to respond and effectively shut them up. They never did this. And here's where it gets genuinely funny. These YouTubers use shady tactics to try and disenfranchise minority creators. They make jokes that hinge on misogyny. They flirt with fascist ideas and mask it as edginess, alluding to them being fascists, racist, and sexists. Prior to this, no one had brought race or sexism into it at all, and this comes off as an attempt to smear Augie and that general group's names. This is what Dennis loves to do. He immediately jumps to labeling them a certain looked down upon thing, and absolutely hopes it sticks. For example, a YouTuber by the name of Zog made a tweet with an obviously fake DM from Def Noodles, and later clarified it was a joke in a reply. Dennis screenshots this and posts, "Note, alt-right commentary YouTube is mad, so the creator is slanderous and fake screen cap, claiming I said a slur. They say in the thread it's a meme, but the intent is to harm my reputation. I've never interacted with this person, and I do not condone anti-Semitism in the strongest way possible." Huh, that's crazy. I mean, I didn't know someone who is Jewish could be alt-right, but hey, good for them. There's also the thread about Augie, Boblax, and Nicholas Diorio making jokes about creating a fake Parler account for Def Noodles on a livestream, and making fake posts saying horrible things. Dennis makes a tweet about it with a very small clip attached. Apologies for the background music, by the way. The only mirror I could find was on some random ass YouTube video.
Nobody owns the Def Noodles app. Somebody make a Def Noodles app, tweet horrible shit in there, then post some replies to his tweet, and see if his
You can't do, the website's down. You gotta get a gap.
No, I have it open right now.
Okay.
Alright. Somebody make a horrible account of Def Noodles.
Yeah, so I can screenshot and reply to them.
Unfortunately for Dennis and Nick, the clip was cropped very liberally. There's an entire other part completely left out that I will now play.
Dude, I'm 100% not down for this. Like, I'm telling you that I don't want to be involved. And I guarantee my name's gonna be on the tweet. I guarantee me sitting here telling you I do not want to be involved and I don't think this is fair.
Dude, that literally happened. Dude, that...
What are you talking about, Nick? Look at that real tweet I
No,
just sent you.
no, stop
You're
it.
so right, Nick. You're so right.
It doesn't even matter what I say. He's gonna fucking name me anyway.
Diorio completely disavowed, and yet was included anyway. Huh, I wonder why he may have left that clip out. Lastly, there's an example between him and John Swan. He very recently referred to him as an alt-right YouTuber, which definitely isn't the case. Say what you want about him, but he is for sure not alt-right. Do you want to know what his defense for this was? A common defense that Dennis likes to use is the fact that it's all a joke. He's playing a character. He's not actually a cat in a Minecraft house. He just plays a character all for the sake of comedy. This has already been ripped apart by multiple other people, but I'd like to add something here. When called out on slandering John Swan, he says that it's all just a joke, but that there's truth in comedy. After the whole John Swan situation with Dream, a tweet put out by Dennis reads, "Are people gonna get off my back for cracking jokes? Or is this community never gonna hold each other accountable for the real shit they're doing? Use Def Noodles as a scapegoat all you want. Dream was framed. John Swan confessed. Pathetic." Oh, so the hot water that John Swan's in right now completely vindicates Def Noodles for slandering him. I get it now. Toastify replies to this by stating that he still called an entire community alt-right. Dennis replies to this in possibly one of the worst ways I've ever seen. He says, "Stop being so sensitive. The only people who got super offended are the people who the joke is about. My audience got the joke. By the way, who the hell are you to gatekeep jokes and say who can say what? You're the joke police now? Seriously, stop being so damn sensitive. Now I'll give Dennis some credit as a comedian. His stand-up definitely doesn't make me laugh, but this horrible contradiction certainly does. What do I mean by this, you may ask? Well, a while ago, Dennis was in a 3-hour debate with AugieRFC where these statements were said.
Today we tweeted the Confederate flag. So, you know.
That's not the Confederate flag. That's the flag of Chadville.
It's fine. However you want to talk about it. You know, it's like it has a hurtful past, like looking at it objectively. At the end of the day, it does symbolize certain things and very hurtful things that happened in this country.
You know what? As I mentioned 2 hours ago, it's absolutely wonderful. You know, especially, I love that you're telling me this as a comedian, right? It's so awesome that we can talk about shit in a joking way without actually believing it. I love comedy.
But what's the punchline? You know, a lot of people dwell in the shock. I'm just trying to but they have like punchlines to what they do. And just picking the Confederate flag and putting it as the flag, like, and saying it's the flag of Chadville, or like retweeting it and saying that, you know, I don't see the punchline.
So this tweet right here isn't a proper joke. It's evidence of flirting with fascist ideas because it has no punchline. You can't find the punchline. And yet calling John Swan alt-right for literally no reason is considered a joke? Where's the punchline in this joke? I genuinely don't see the punchline in something like, oh, I don't know, stating that someone has a political affiliation that they don't have. In fact, why don't we cross-reference this with his formerly pinned tweet, primarily number 3. Only facts relevant to the story are presented. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe there is a reason it's not pinned anymore. This is an example of some of Dennis's standards applying to pretty much anyone who isn't him. Linking back to earlier with the parlor situation, he tries to imply that simply because Nick was present and didn't say anything against Augie's joke, just that he disavowed, he therefore bears responsibility.
The whole point is that, yes, he disavowed, but I mean, we're going to keep hammering that. I think we just have to agree to disagree. I see it as he has responsibility as a person who's broadcasting to like at least put out a statement or say something like, guys, don't do this. I'm asking you to not do it. If you do it, I disagree.
Nick gets to take some of the blame for something he didn't do, but how does Dennis get to automatically shift all of it onto a character? This might be kind of a nuclear take, but if he made it abundantly clear that he wants to shit on parts of the commentary community, completely openly, I'd have zero problems with it. But he's essentially setting up his own rules and guidelines and shattering them instantly, while pretending that he's still within them. There's also a fundamental problem with this character excuse to begin with. There is no character. No matter what Dennis says, him and Def Noodles are the exact same person. What characteristics does Def Noodles display on camera when compared to Dennis other than talking a little loudly? Next to nothing. Also wondering why the Twitter accounts linked on Def Noodles' page link right to Dennis and not the quote-unquote character. Now this next section might be a little controversial, but Dennis is a massive... To cap this whole video off, I want to talk about Dennis's general attitude of criticism. Dennis is absolutely afraid of the slightest bit of criticism anyone can muster up, to the point of blocking anyone on Twitter with a mildly critical view of him. If you search up Def Noodles blocked on Twitter, you can scroll all day if you really wanted to. It's to the point where the vast majority of people, including an account that posts screenshots of Def Noodles tweets, get blocked by both Def Noodles and Dennis. I mean, I understand the character blocking people, but the guy behind it too? Really makes you think. If you want an example of just how fragile this guy is in action, let's take one more look at Twitter. Senpai Meme says, shut the f up. You have no right to even reply after slandering other people. And don't you dare use the it's a joke channel excuse. You talk about stuff that's so f***ing unfunny most of the time. Dennis decides to reply with, we got the great dictator of Twitter here telling everyone what they can and can't do. Why don't you kindly f off? I don't remember ever asking your thoughts. Just like that, he pulls a classic, didn't ask. Dennis, if I were you, I'd delete that tweet as soon as possible. You know, before someone screenshots it and puts it in a video. I'd also be kicking myself if I didn't talk about the Kavos situation at all. Basic story, Kavos was streaming himself poking fun at Dennis's videos before he was Def Noodles, and Dennis made a response video.
I don't need some douchebag to tell me how to interpret my meme.
You know, that's totally fine. I totally get it. Outside of the fact that I'm a douchebag, I don't find myself to be a douchebag. I don't know what in my video caused you to think that I'm a douchebag.
Just from watching the video, you can feel the coping. Later on, he made a video called Kavos Made Me Want to Quit YouTube, which, by the way, is probably one of the funniest videos I've ever seen on this platform. There's also the debate with AugieRFC, or as I refer to it as, we'll get to that, the movie. Watching this whole thing is genuinely painful, because Augie will ask a hard-hitting question, actually, let me rephrase that, any question, and there's about a 75% chance that Dennis would say something like, we'll get to that, we'll revisit that, we'll come back to that. And when there's points that he can't just deflect, he'll be like, I get what you're saying, but I'm gonna repeat my point again.
At the end of the day, It's his live stream. He's
If
responsible.
I'm saying it,
But at the end of the day, he still bears some responsibility. Like, let's say that he were on a late night show or some show on television. At the end of the day, it was his stream. It's his responsibility.
you can't win with this, dude.
He bears some responsibility because of your actions. I mean, it's his live stream. You literally went and you look, at the end of the day, it's his platform. You went on his platform and you said something that you even later disavowed. It happened. It's his platform. At the end of the day, at least we can agree that YouTube would give him the strike. And that's how.
Yeah, obviously.
He has some responsibility. That means he has some responsibility. So, next tweet.
Lastly, the thread I read earlier about slandering the entire community can apply right here. This begs some questions though. Why cower behind the joke defense if you're just gonna block anyone who remotely disagrees with you anyway? Why be a commentary/news channel when you can't handle the exact same kind of attention on yourself? With the kinds of topics he reports on, and with how many apologies and responses get made in this day and age of YouTube, you would think that he would have picked up 1 or 2 tips from somewhere, but he hasn't. To wrap this whole video up neatly, I feel like Noodles comes across as someone who's never actually handled genuine criticism or drama of his own prior to YouTube. And I can't really fault him for that, but you would think that he would at least know better at this point. If I had to give Dennis a little bit of genuine constructive criticism, it would be to grow a thicker skin. You might think you have one, but you don't. Take accountability, quit hiding from well-meaning criticism, and drop the whole character act. It's like the Emperor's new clothes, but everyone calls him out. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I can't criticize. I'm not a comedian like you. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Like it if you like it, dislike it if you didn't. Dox me if you really didn't. Subscribe if you want to see some more content from me, and I'll see you in the next video.